Emily never expected the weekend to feel so quiet, so empty, yet somehow full of tension. She wiped down the kitchen counter for the third time, her hands moving almost automatically, while her mind wandered to the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock. She had imagined this weekend would be peaceful, a chance to catch up on reading, maybe watch a movie alone, but the silence in the house felt heavy, too heavy. And she realized she missed the noise, the chaos, the little interruptions that usually came with David around. The unexpected sound of the doorbell made her jump, and for a second she hesitated, wondering who could possibly be visiting without warning. She wiped her hands on her apron and opened the door, and there he was, Ryan, David's younger brother, taller than she remembered, his hair a little longer, smile easy and warm, that mischievous look in his eyes reminding her of all the times he had gotten into trouble as a kid. "Hey, hope I'm not bothering you," he said, his voice calm, but with a hint of excitement, and Emily felt an unexpected flutter in her chest that made her momentarily forget how to answer. "No, not at all," she said, stepping aside to let him in, and something about the way he leaned casually against the doorway made her heart skip again. She wasn't sure why she felt nervous. After all, she had known Ryan all her life. He had been like family, yet seeing him now, in this quiet house with no one else around, made everything feel different, electric somehow. They sat in the living room, and Emily tried to make small talk, asking about work, about his travel, about what had brought him to town, and Ryan answered with that same easy charm he had always had. But this time, his stories seemed to have a different weight, his eyes holding more than just memories, his laughter lingering a little longer than usual, and Emily noticed it, felt it, that strange pull she couldn't name. Ryan's presence filled the house in a way that was almost physical, as if he brought warmth with him, and Emily found herself laughing at jokes she barely remembered, sharing little details of her life she hadn't thought about in years. Stories about David as a kid, about trips they had taken together, and Ryan listened, really listened, and it made Emily feel seen, noticed in a way she hadn't realized she craved. Hours passed quickly, and the sun moved across the windows, casting long shadows on the floor, and Emily barely noticed, caught up in the easy rhythm of conversation, the way Ryan's hand occasionally brushed hers as he reached for a cup of coffee, the casual closeness that made her chest tighten in a way that was both exciting and alarming. She tried to tell herself it was nothing, that she was imagining things, but every time their eyes met, a spark ran through her, undeniable and confusing. When David called to say he would be working late and wouldn't be home until late that night, Emily felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. Relief because she could enjoy the company without worrying about her husband noticing the tension in the air, and guilt because she knew the way she felt was complicated, even forbidden, but she couldn't stop thinking about the warmth of Ryan's smile, the soft way he laughed at her jokes, the unexpected comfort of having him there. They decided to make tea together, and Emily followed Ryan to the kitchen, noticing how easily he moved, how natural he seemed in her home, like he belonged there, and she wondered if she had been blind all these years, blind to the way her heart reacted to him, blind to the subtle pull she had never acknowledged. As they sipped their tea, Ryan asked about her life, about her work, about her dreams, and Emily found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone in a long time. He asked questions that made her think, made her reflect, and she realized that she had been living on autopilot, caught up in routines, missing that spark of curiosity, that feeling of being truly alive. Emily laughed at a story he told about David as a teenager. The way Ryan exaggerated certain details made her laugh until tears came to her eyes, and she noticed the way Ryan watched her when she laughed, the way his eyes softened, the subtle way he leaned in when he told his stories, and she felt a strange warmth spread through her, a feeling she hadn't expected. By mid-afternoon, the conversation shifted to memories from the past, childhood adventures, vacations, small moments that had seemed insignificant at the time, but now carried weight, and Emily realized she had forgotten how much she loved listening to Ryan's stories, how comforting his presence had always been, how easy it was to be around him, and it struck her that this was different from any visit before, different from any family gathering. This was intimate, emotional, quietly powerful. Time moved without notice, and soon the shadows grew long and soft across the floor. Emily caught herself staring at Ryan, wondering how someone could feel so familiar and so new at the same time, how someone could make her heart race just by smiling, and she felt a twinge of fear, because she knew that whatever this feeling was, it was dangerous, confusing, and impossible to ignore. Ryan cleared his throat, breaking the quiet moment, and Emily felt a jolt, realizing how close they had been sitting, how the air between them felt charged, electric almost, a tension she hadn't expected, a connection she hadn't acknowledged before, and for a moment, neither spoke, both aware of the shift, the unspoken understanding, the shared secret tension that hung in the air like a delicate thread. When Ryan finally stood to leave, Emily felt a strange pull, a reluctance she couldn't explain, and as he smiled one last time, brushing past her slightly, she realized her heart had betrayed her. It had noticed him in ways she hadn't allowed herself to feel, ways that scared her, thrilled her, and left her breathless. She closed the door after him, leaning against it for a moment, heart racing, mind spinning, and she knew one thing for certain. This weekend was going to change everything in ways she could never have predicted. And Emily didn't know yet, but Ryan felt it too. The night settled over the house, soft and quiet, and Emily found herself in the living room, pretending to read a book, but her mind was far from the words on the page. Every sound seemed louder. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the heater, the occasional rustle from the kitchen, and then she noticed Ryan sitting across from her, scrolling on his phone, relaxed but aware, and suddenly the room felt smaller, the space between them charged with something unspoken. Emily tried to focus on the words in her book, but she couldn't. Her eyes kept flicking to him, noticing the way his hair fell slightly over his forehead, the subtle lines of his jaw when he smiled at something on his phone, the way his posture shifted when he laughed quietly at a message, and each small detail made her chest tighten, a mix of excitement and something she wasn't ready to name. "You're not really reading, are you?" Ryan's voice cut through the quiet, soft but teasing, and Emily felt a heat rise to her cheeks. She wanted to deny it, to say she was, but the truth was impossible to hide. Her thoughts had been entirely about him for hours. The way he looked, the way he laughed, the way he made her feel noticed, alive, almost young again. I was just thinking," she said, trying to sound casual, but her voice faltered, and Ryan tilted his head, curiosity and something else flickering in his eyes. "Thinking about what?" he asked, leaning back slightly, giving her a look that made her heart skip a beat. She closed the book without thinking, set it down beside her, and suddenly felt exposed, aware of every movement, every glance, every subtle shift in the air between them. The room seemed warmer, the silence heavier, and Emily realized she had never been this aware of anyone in her life. Ryan's eyes didn't leave hers, and for a moment, it was as if time slowed, the clock ticking unnoticed in the corner, their breaths slightly uneven, the energy between them vibrating with tension, something neither of them wanted to name aloud but couldn't ignore. The connection felt undeniable and dangerous. He moved just a little closer, a small step that made Emily's heart leap, and neither spoke, just looked at each other, the room fading away until it was only them, the living room a blurred backdrop, their focus entirely on the small, subtle world they shared in that moment. "I've never seen you like this," Ryan whispered, almost too softly to hear, and Emily felt a shiver run through her heart hammering in her chest, because she understood instantly that he wasn't talking about the book or the quiet night, he was talking about her. The way she felt alive in his presence, the way her heart reacted, the pull she hadn't acknowledged until now. Her hand twitched slightly, and she felt a warmth spreading from her chest to her fingers, a mix of fear and longing that made her feel dizzy, and Ryan's gaze softened, lingered, and in a way that felt both frightening and thrilling. She realized he felt it too, the same pull, the same electricity that made the air between them thick, almost tangible. Neither of them spoke for several moments, the silence filled with everything they weren't saying, and Emily's thoughts raced, a jumble of excitement, guilt, fear, and curiosity. She knew this was complicated, impossible even, yet part of her wanted to lean in, to close the distance, to feel that connection fully, and she realized that for the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about David, wasn't thinking about routine or responsibility. She was thinking about this moment, this tension, this spark. Ryan shifted again, just enough to close the invisible space between them, and Emily felt her pulse racing, every nerve alive, the sensation overwhelming, intoxicating, and before she could stop herself, she felt his lips brush hers, a soft, hesitant kiss that was gentle, almost innocent, but it carried a weight that made her knees feel weak, her chest flutter uncontrollably. It was the first real kiss she had ever had that made her feel truly seen, truly alive, and for a few heartbeats, the room disappeared entirely, leaving only them, connected in a way Emily hadn't expected, hadn't imagined, couldn't have planned for, the kind of moment that stays with you, that changes something deep inside. When they finally pulled apart, both of them breathing a little harder, eyes locked, Emily felt a rush of emotions, guilt, excitement, fear, longing, all tangled together, because she knew this was wrong in a way she couldn't ignore, yet she couldn't deny how much it had awakened something inside her, something she had never felt before. Ryan's hand brushed against hers accidentally as he moved back slightly, and she felt a jolt run through her, sharp and thrilling, and suddenly the house felt too small, the air too heavy, and Emily realized she had just crossed a line she could never uncross, a moment that would change everything, even if nothing else happened, even if David never found out, even if she tried to pretend it hadn't happened. Then, the sound of David's car in the driveway snapped her out of the spell, harsh and sudden, reality crashing back like cold water, and Emily jumped slightly, heart racing, mind spinning, guilt and fear mixing with the lingering warmth of the kiss, the memory of his lips, the connection that had made her feel alive. Ryan looked startled too, his eyes flicking toward the door, and Emily could see the same mix of emotions in him: shock, guilt, desire, uncertainty, and for a moment, neither of them spoke, both frozen in that fragile, dangerous pause, the unspoken question hanging between them. What now? David's footsteps in the hallway made the tension unbearable, and Emily quickly straightened, trying to compose herself, trying to act normal, but her chest still raced, her mind replaying every second of the kiss, every glance, every subtle brush of skin, and she realized that nothing would feel normal anymore. Ryan gave her a small, fleeting look as he rose to help with some dishes, the silent acknowledgement passing between them that this moment had happened, that it had changed everything, and Emily felt a shiver run through her, both terrified and exhilarated, because she knew that weekend was just beginning, and somehow it had already begun to rewrite her life. As she washed her hands and turned away, Emily caught herself glancing toward Ryan again, and he met her gaze, subtle, fleeting, but full of something unspoken, and she knew that the first real kiss was only the start, a spark that couldn't be ignored, a connection that refused to disappear. And Emily understood something she hadn't before. Some moments stay with you forever, moments that change you, moments that awaken feelings you can't name, and this night, this quiet, electric night with Ryan, would be one of them, leaving her heart racing, mind spinning, and a secret she wasn't sure she could keep. The weekend ended faster than Emily wanted, and the house that had felt alive with tension and energy now seemed quieter, almost hollow. David back from work, tired but cheerful, unaware of the storm that had passed between her and Ryan. Emily tried to focus on him, smiled, laughed at his stories, but every glance toward Ryan, who lingered to help with small chores, brought back the memory of their kiss, the spark that had started between them, and she realized just how much it had changed her. Ryan moved around the house with casual ease, chatting quietly with David, making jokes, offering help, but Emily noticed the subtle moments, how he lingered a second too long when handing her a cup of coffee, how his eyes met hers across the room, brief, fleeting, loaded with unspoken words, and every small gesture made her chest tighten, made her heart race, made her question her own feelings. She tried to tell herself it was just a fleeting moment, that she was imagining things, but the truth pressed on her like weight, undeniable and persistent. She felt a pull toward Ryan she couldn't name, a connection that made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years, and it scared her more than she wanted to admit, because she knew how wrong it was, how complicated, yet the pull refused to fade. That evening, David left early to meet a client, leaving Emily alone in the kitchen with Ryan, and the air between them was thick, heavy with everything neither of them wanted to say. Their eyes kept meeting, fleeting but intense, and Emily's heart thumped so loudly she could hear it in her own ears. Every glance, every small smile, felt like a spark igniting inside her. Ryan leaned against the counter, pretending to sort dishes, but his attention was entirely on her, watching her, noticing the small movements she didn't realize she made, the way she twirled a strand of hair, the way her lips pressed together when she thought, the way her eyes softened when she looked at him, and Emily felt herself melting under the intensity, unable to look away, unable to deny the pull. "Emily," he said softly, voice low, hesitant, and it made her stop in her tracks, her chest tightening, every nerve alert. "I shouldn't feel this way, but I can't help it." And she felt the exact same thing, the longing, the desire, the dangerous curiosity, the thrill and fear intertwined. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for a glass, her mind spinning with thoughts she couldn't sort, guilt clashing with longing, responsibility with curiosity, yet every part of her wanted to lean closer, to close the distance, to feel that spark again, even if it was wrong, even if it could never be. Ryan moved a little closer without thinking, the brush of his hand against hers intentional, almost testing, and Emily felt a shiver run through her, the sensation electric, alive, impossible to ignore, and for a moment, the room fell away, leaving only them, two people caught in a tension neither of them wanted to fully name, yet both of them aware of it, drawn to it, unable to pull away. Emily's breath caught as he smiled softly at her, that warm, familiar smile that had always made her feel at home, yet now it carried weight, meaning, a promise of something unspoken, and she realized how easy it was to forget everything else in the world when he looked at her like that. They moved slowly around the kitchen, working together, small gestures loaded with energy, hands brushing occasionally, eyes meeting more often than necessary, and Emily felt a thrill she hadn't felt in years, a mix of danger, excitement, and longing, every second stretching, lingering, impossible to ignore. David's absence stretched on, and the quiet house allowed the tension to build, to simmer just beneath the surface, and Emily knew that the moment of truth was approaching, that sooner or later, someone would speak, someone would act, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for that. But she also knew she couldn't pretend nothing had happened, couldn't pretend she didn't feel everything she was feeling. Finally, Ryan stopped near her, leaning against the counter, close enough for her to feel the heat from his body, his eyes soft, intent, and Emily felt her heart leap, a mixture of fear and desire that left her breathless. "Emily," he said again, almost whispering, and she knew he wasn't asking for permission. He was acknowledging the pull between them, the unspoken truth that had been simmering all weekend. Her mind raced, thinking of David, thinking of responsibility, thinking of the life she had built, yet her heart beat faster, louder than reason, reminding her that she had felt something real, something alive, something she couldn't ignore even if she tried, and it terrified her as much as it thrilled her. Ryan's hand brushed hers again, this time intentional, deliberate, and Emily shivered, her body responding before her mind could, and she realized that this was no longer a fleeting moment, no longer an accident. It had become something real, undeniable, a connection that could not be erased by ignoring it. She looked at him, searching his eyes, seeing her own feelings reflected back, and for a moment, everything was silent, tense, electric, and Emily knew she was standing on the edge, unsure if she wanted to step back, unsure if she could resist, unsure if either of them could. When David returned unexpectedly, laughter and footsteps echoing in the hallway, Emily jumped slightly, heart racing, guilt and longing colliding, and Ryan stepped back, adjusting his posture, both of them suddenly aware of reality, aware of boundaries, aware of the danger they had flirted with. They smiled, normal, casual, but the tension lingered, subtle, unspoken, a secret that had formed between them, one that neither could ignore, and Emily realized that no matter how hard she tried to act normal, that weekend had changed her, changed the way she saw Ryan, the way she saw herself, and the way she saw the world. As the night ended, Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart still racing, mind replaying every glance, every touch, every word, and she understood that this connection, this spark, would not fade, not quickly, not easily, and she had to make a choice, not just for herself, but for everyone she cared about. She didn't know what the future held, didn't know if she could resist the pull, didn't know if Ryan felt the same way now that reality had returned, but she knew one thing clearly. The weekend had opened something inside her, a new awareness of desire, connection, and longing, and it had left her with a secret, a tension, a story she couldn't undo. Emily closed her eyes, heart pounding, realizing that life was no longer simple, no longer predictable, and the spark with Ryan had changed everything, a quiet, undeniable fire that would shape her choices, her emotions, and her heart from that day forward. And she understood, finally, that some connections are impossible to ignore, no matter how wrong, complicated, or impossible they may seem, and that first spark, that first real kiss, that weekend together, would stay with her forever, leaving her heart racing and her mind unsure, on the edge of something new, something she hadn't expected, something she wasn't ready to name. But Emily knew, deep down, that she had felt something real, something unforgettable, and nothing would ever make her forget it.